welcome back number 25, Kevin Stevens.
We're all gonna have choices in life. 28 years old, never did a drug in my life. Someone handed me something. So one 30-second decision I made changed the past of my life. For the next 24 years, my life went like this.
We're on TV now, so it's kind of
scary.
You know, our radio and our podcast can see on TV, which is kind of new to us. So
Painfully. Like I sat with you guys for a long time, guys, and sat there and say it's never gonna be me, you know? Now I'm sitting here talking to you guys because it was me.
I know how those people feel because I've been in those situations where I've been stuck, and when you're in it, you can't see it. It's very hard, it's a very difficult thing, addiction and substance abuse, and people need help, and we have to get out there and kind of educate people and try to do the best we can to help them. Welcome to CrossCheck. I am Kevin Stevens, and got another great show planned today. We got two lovely ladies sitting over there ready to go, and
In the green room.
in the green room.
Yeah.
But now we got to go to lovely Andy. Here's Andy. Here's our boy Andy. He'll get us started.
Why, thank you, Kevin. That was my best John Sterling.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah,
That was
okay.
good. Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, we do have a great show today, and we're going to talk to Karen McDonald, who is a longtime industry professional in the recovery world, and we're also going to talk to Kate Sullivan from the City of Boston Credit Union, who will talk to us about some financial literacy tips. And we'll all find this very valuable, whether you're in recovery or not. But before we get started, we have to meet the other members of our panel, and of course, our friend Alex Bezanson, founder of the Abington Substance Awareness Council, and of
Coalition.
Coalition.
You'll get it right.
I'll get it right
You'll
at
get it
some
right.
point. Yeah, and our friend Amy George from the Washburn House in Worcester, Mass. How are you all?
Doing
Well,
Very well.
Oh, we're back to well. Amy, what do you think of this whole?
I love it.
All
It's
right.
beautiful.
It is beautiful. So quickly, give us a little bio about you.
Well, I'm the Vice President of Business Development for the Washburn House.
All right.
Yes, and the Washburn House serves individuals with substance use disorder
Okay.
in the Worcester area.
Okay.
A full continuum of care.
What do
So
you think of this whole setup?
It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous, and even more gorgeous is this lovely panel that we have.
Right? Well, you had the best looking man in hockey,
That's right.
yeah.
That is right.
Alex.
Oh, both of you.
Alex.
Both of you.
He is in hockey. He's the
Yeah.
team trainer. Right?
I'm one of the trainers.
One other thing.
great.
One of the trainers.
All right. So I got a cool news story.
Okay.
You know, we talk a lot about negative things, or not negative things, but we talk a lot about struggles. And so I wanted to share a story that I found in the insider.com website. And it was about a couple called Brent and Ashley Walker. And they each began struggling with substance use disorder at age 9. And now 30 and 31 respectively, they live in Tennessee, and they've turned their lives around. And they started sharing a photo of their transformation on Facebook with the hashtag Clean Challenge. And the post garnered over 200,000 likes and had been shared more than 143,000 times. After being able to transform their lives, Brent said that he would tell people who were in the same position with addiction not to give up. So my question to you guys, I think it's great that he's sharing. We were talking, you're not so...
No, I think it's great. Any source of recovery you can find, but for me, recovery is about meetings. You know, you have to get out and you have to meet people. You know, they said they had to change their friends and change all the people, but if you're on social media, you're on your computer, you're not meeting people, you're not changing your friends, you're not out there actually meeting people and learning about sobriety. It's a way to change your life, right?
Right.
Because we all, like, I had to change the way I was living. I had to change my friends. I had to change a lot of things. And if I was sitting there on a computer, no, I think it's a way for people. Some people are shy. Some people don't want to go to meetings. Some people, but I think for me personally, if I don't go to meetings, I don't stay sober. There's no possible way I can, and I know that deep down. Like, and people that do stay sober, not going to meetings, all the power to them. I can't.
Right.
You know, I have to do, this is how I have to do it. This is how I was taught to do it. It's fellowship. It's meeting other guys. It's being around
Right.
people that can help me.
Right.
You know, they're struggling with the same situation I'm struggling with, because if I don't find those people, then I'm going to find the people that aren't going to help me, right?
Right.
You know, my
it's-
brain tells me I can go find those people that are not going to help me pretty easy if I'm not going to meetings.
Yeah, you can find those.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Well, I think I always say whatever works, you know, and if this works for them, but I definitely see Kevin's point. You know, you have to. I think you have to go to the meetings. You have to, as Kevin always says, change your friends, you know, to stay in recovery. You can't hang around with the same people you were before. But I think by posting it on social media, they're reaching other people
who may not
who may not
right.
know how to go about being sober. And I definitely think it's good. I'm a big fan of social media.
Oh, we know.
We know, and and
He's
it
the
works.
king of Facebook.
And it works. It works for Abington Substance Awareness Coalition. It works for Hug Foundation. That's how we reach people. But I think them personally, hopefully, they're doing more than just social media.
Well, it says they are going to church programs and they, really try to be faith-based and really positive. And my hope is that it's for other people, not just the way to keep themselves.
Right. Maybe it's not just their way to stay sober, but it's their way of spreading the message that there is help out there, and look what we've done.
Correct.
You know?
The fact that they got that many likes, the only thing that I've seen that has more is the movie Shattered.
Yeah, that took a long time to get that many likes.
Is
There's
that-
a lot of us guys looking at it over
Right.
and over.
What do you think?
No, I agree. If it's something that's inspiring people, I think that's really important. The only thing that comes with posting on, social media is it does come with some responsibility, because we've all seen those posts of people that are in the moment of overdosing and things like that. And that's really devastating to people's lives when people are irresponsible with what they're posting on social media. So I think you have to be really careful and draw the line with what you're posting on social media.
I think it's courageous on them to at least put themselves out there to the masses,
And it's
and they're proud.
No, I think
and they're
it's-
proud, and it's their way of staying sober, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, it helps them and it works. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm not saying it's there's nothing wrong
It
with it.
wouldn't be right for you.
For me,
Yeah.
different. Some people don't like to go out there and go to meetings. Some people don't, but I don't know.
That's your plan.
My
What you
plan is to go to meetings. And
That's
the only
what
way,
you do.
it's the only way I can stay sober. So I know that. You
Right.
know?
Well, we're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk to Karen McDonald, a licensed interventionist. She's got a whole slew of.
She's got a great story.
She does have a
Great.
great story, and we're going to come back to talk to Karen. And you're watching and listening to CrossCheck. We'll be right back. Welcome back to CrossCheck. My name is Andy Bernstein, here with two-time Stanley Cup champion and the guy who's making it happen.
I'm trying to deal with my daughter. She's really got me flustered. She's the only one in the world can get me flustered. She's got me
She
flustered.
got you flustered?
Yeah,
You're
I love that girl to death, but she can fluster.
Yeah, you're trying to make some stuff happen. You're
Yeah.
playing the
The role that I don't like playing, but I'm playing it.
right. You're playing it, and then of course the
Amy
great
George.
Amy George from Washburn House. I knew who you were.
Well, I was just double checking.
No, I
making
just
sure.
had a pause.
All right, it was good. Dramatic pause.
A dramatic
It's
pause.
good.
Right.
It's good.
Okay. All right.
Liked
And joining us now is our first guest, Karen McDonald. She is a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, too.
Yes.
Craft and Arise trained interventionist. She has over 18 years experience in the substance abuse field. She provides great information and access to treatment, individuals, family, businesses, industries, unions, and agencies all over Southeastern Mass. She does a lot of work with nonprofits. She serves on a couple of boards,
I do.
and she's got a great story. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
Look at this.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Right?
the best right here.
Uh-huh.
Right? It's like the Stern Show, or right? It's like
Yeah.
it's awesome.
I'm afraid of some of those questions.
No. Kev wants to know. He has questions.
No, yeah, we were talking a little bit earlier, like kind of tell us just a little bit about your story, like how you got started and what's all going on.
So, approximately 19 years ago, I had the opportunity to. I actually worked in head injury for 13 years. And during my career in head injury, I had set up some individuals with substance abuse and got them connected out in the community to treatment. And I myself at that time had 12 years in recovery. And the opportunity came to work at Bridgewater at MassSAC for Section 35. And they basically hired me because of my years of experience in substance use and helping to develop curriculum and all that for head injury.
So you said you really liked Section, that kind of got you started.
That's
We all know that Section 35 isn't the easiest place to work at, but you said you got a kind of good jump on things there to get your life started in that.
I did.
field.
So that was, some may think that was hard, working in a prison setting, but that was my introduction, and I absolutely loved it. I worked there for approximately 6 years. During the time of employment there, I went back to school and I got my LADAC, which is my licensed alcohol and drug counseling licensing through the state. And from that point in time, I was able to go run a men's halfway house out in Fall River, Mass. And I did that for several years. And when I left there, I actually came back to this particular area, to the South Shore, and I had worked very briefly out in Weymouth for Spectrum. They had a CSS unit at the time. And I was pulled out of that particular job to go marketing, and I have been doing that now for approximately the past 10, 11 years, marketing various treatment programs.
Which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
To back up for a second, you mentioned Section 35. For those
Yes.
who may not know what Section 35 is, can you share a little bit more about what that is?
It's changed since I have been there, but basically what Section 35 is it's a court order individual with a substance use to treatment. Family members, police, doctors are able to go to the courts and plead to have an individual taken into a treatment, and all the treatment facilities usually are locked facilities where they would remain for up to, some of them are up to 30 days, 90 days to get some help.
And people are using, there's some controversy about it as far as from the mental health aspect. Is it better to lock someone up or not lock someone up, but
Yeah.
to have them
Go on their own.
Yep. And then go through counseling as a way to cope with their addiction?
Yeah. So you can have both ends of the spectrum. I do know a lot of individuals, like I had worked there for almost 6 years. You had individuals that would go to the courts themselves and section themselves because they knew it was the only way that they would stay clean for 30 days. You had family members that were able to sleep at night knowing that their loved one was in treatment. However, some of the controversy is under the direction of corrections may not be the best scenario for an individual of help and support. Your correction officers are there for care and custody. And as we know, sometimes the behaviors and stuff can appear to be out of control.
I think the biggest thing about the Section 35s is a lot of times people are offered to go into rehab. Like a lot of those people that are out there, the only way to get them off the streets is to get them court ordered, and their families have to go there and try to save their life. A lot of the hardest thing to do to stay sober is, if you don't want to stay sober, you're not going to stay sober. I've been in the best rehabs in the world.
Yep.
I didn't want to get sober. And I didn't get sober. I could go to the worst, whatever the answer is. And if I want to get sober, I'll get sober.
Yep.
And I think that's the hardest thing, when forcing people into, but you're trying to save. There's two different spectrums, right? You're trying to save their life instead of I know they need treatment, but a lot of the people don't want treatment, right?
I remember when I started, Learn to Cope was just beginning as well, back in '04, and she had sent her loved one all over the countryside and paid a lot of money to have him go for treatment. And what she realized was encouraging the families to not have to take a second mortgage on your house and get them sectioned to treatment. As long as you're doing something, you know, so that you know you could rest your head at night knowing you tried to do something to help your loved one.
Yeah, that's a terrible, like, you know, none of us want to be in that situation ever, right? But that happens, and you know, we all put our families through certain things, and it's difficult, but it's I think it's a good thing to try to give yourself a chance, right? That's the only way you get a chance is you got to get out of the place you're at. You know, you can't be on the street all the time, and like you've been through, like you said, you've been through that Section 35. What did you like so much? Why did you enjoy like that part of the job, or that part of, you know, you've done a lot of different things. Is that one of the most gratifying things?
It seems like you've been in this field for a very long time.
Yeah.
You've been working with substance use disorder for so long. What inspired you to go into it and be involved in it for so long?
I think first and foremost, I'm a person in recovery.
Okay.
I think what got me there is not necessarily what has kept me there, but I had lost my husband in 2003 from a heroin overdose, and I was working at Section 35 at that time, and that, of course, helped me to, you know, keep going forward to try to help as many people as possible. And then at that time, I had a 14-year-old son who literally shut down because of his dad's passing, and I personally have not heard from my son now for the past 3 years. So, and I think it's that push, my own recovery, because I know the possibilities. You know, I'm just celebrated 29 years in recovery, and you know, I know how life can be better. I know what recovery can do for somebody, and just keep trying to help others to see that same way of life.
And I mean, obviously, you are incredibly dedicated to the field, and I guess you can relate to this too. How has the business of recovery and treatment? You know, it sounds like we were talking off air. You know, there's, you know, it's kind of a conflicting message for somebody like you who is very dedicated, but yet there's the financial and the business side of it. How do you separate yourself from that?
It's tough.
It is hard. You know, I mean, and Amy is, you know, a leader in the industry in the marketing field for sure. And I think what happens is really taking the individual, you know, one of the horrible questions we always have to ask is what's your insurance, you know. But I think part of that has to do with where can we place them to get the best care for the level that they're at. And, you know, trying to go to any lengths to make sure that we place them somewhere, whether it's even, you know, there was many times I wasn't placing them in a treatment program that I represented. You know, some may have had more outstanding mental health issues, you know, that truly have emerged that we needed to take care of before you could take care of the substance use. So I was placing people in, you know, mental health programs. And it's just, I think, really that passion of helping someone.
I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, part of our role really is helping every individual and every family that calls us, no matter if it's placing them in our particular facility or placing them outside of our facility or even out of state. It's doing what's best and really keeping that in the forefront. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's, you know, you guys see so many different kinds of people, you know, and it's different, like you said, from people on the street to people that are high business people that have, you know, any kind of insurance. But it's important that all people get treated because, you know, what else do we have, right? Well, what else do they have? The people, like, everybody needs to be treated, and it's, you know, sometimes it's hard. You're right, because it's turned into such a money grab all over the place, you know, and it's, you know, that's life, right? That's where it's gone.
Kevin, when I worked at Section 35, it was amazing because everyone got the same treatment. I had some of the most richest people out of Massachusetts, and I have never named names, to those that were indigent, and they all received the same care. You know, they all were able to meet with a counselor. They had groups, provided education on addiction, trying to get them placed out of there. Everybody got the same care. and I think that's the bottom line, is trying to help the individual.
Yeah.
So if somebody's interested, as somebody who has been in the field for as long as you have, if somebody's interested in seeking treatment, what would you advise? I mean, obviously understanding that everybody has their own, meet them where they're at type of thing, but what would you say that people should be looking for as a best practices? And I'll ask you that question too, from someone who's been in different centers, kind of, what are the things that you could stress to people?
So it depends on the people, I sit on a board for EB Hope, which is a local community-based center where it runs one time a month.
East
here.
Bridgewater Hope.
East Bridgewater Hope. And, allowing family members or those with an actual active substance abuse issue to go there, get some information, get Narcan, get some direction as for resources, families and people. I think the biggest problem is lacking resources. I recently had a doctor call me. He had an issue, with a family member. And honest to God, he runs an emergency room, and he asked his team, where do I go? They all said, call Karen McDonald. Mm-hmm. He, as a doctor, he was amazed at himself that he did not even know where to turn to help his loved one. So, I mean, I think being able to utilize people like, the both of us, such as yourself, you get familiar with different treatment programs. I'm fortunate being a counselor, where I have learned, and you have as well, with working in this industry, being able to assess an appropriate level of care for somebody, because it's not only knowing where to turn, but what's the appropriate level of care, and I think PARI right now, which
Police assisted.
Yep, addiction recovery initiative,
is
out there right now working with 27 towns out of the PCO Hope.
The chiefs.
Yeah. And what they're trying to do is really assess a person's individual need in what is appropriate and where they should go. Trying to really, because people are in and out, of treatment programs. And there's really not a lot of good stats on best outcomes, from inpatient programming.
And I think you have to also really go with your gut. You know, if you're feeling like you're calling certain places, you're going through the Google list, you may be calling a certain number that you're finding on Google that may not necessarily be where you think you're calling.
Right.
You could be calling someplace out of state, unfortunately, and you think you're calling a local facility. Do your homework. The other thing that I can say is go with your gut instinct. If you feel like you're getting the hard sell and you feel like someone's really pushing you to make a commitment to treatment right away, and granted, I think their time is of the essence. There's a small window for, when we want to get people into treatment right away. But if you're getting the feeling that you're just getting the hard sell because they want to fill their beds, you're probably getting the hard sell. So be cognizant of that.
What were some of the, not to put you on the spot, but what were some of the places that, you went to that were appealing to you, or what? How did you end up there?
Yeah, I was playing hockey, so I went to the nicer places, which like I said, if I could go anywhere I want. If I didn't want to get sober, I wasn't going to get sober. Like,
Right.
I went to good places, good food, good counselors.
You always talk about
Good, good, Spring Hill had good food.
Right,
A lot of good. I went to a lot of good places, but you learn a lot. I think the biggest thing when you go to treatment is that you hear something. You definitely get a seed planted, even if you really you don't want to be there, but you gotta go, and you go to meetings and you go talk to people, and people talk, and you hear things, and you're there to get recovery, and you're here to hear things. I think it's time. If you can get it, and you can get this program. It's such a great way to live, but it's hard. It's going to be the hardest thing you're ever going to do in your life. I've done a lot of good things, and this is by far the hardest thing I had to do.
Right.
I got sober and to stay sober. That's, there's two different things. You can get sober, but now I got to stay sober. So it's some work, but the positive stuff that is so much more, than the negatives. And it's important that people know they can get sober. You can do it. Doesn't matter where you're at. you want to get sober. There's great people everywhere. Some of the best people might not be at the best place in the world. It could be
That's
better.
right.
Yeah, there's great people everywhere.
But you still, like you said, you still have to do the work
Yeah.
as a person. So as great as a treatment center, or you still have to be an advocate for yourself or have that desire to succeed.
Action.
Yeah.
Action.
They used to say, the old saying was, put you and God in a rowboat. He's going to steer you, and occasionally he's going to let you steer, but he's never going to row. You have to do the
Right.
work.
Get up and walk.
You got to do it.
What's your stance on, what do you believe in, or how do you feel about sober living and sober transition homes and facilities? Like to get your take on that.
From experience, I mean, I know it's a service that is definitely needed. A lot of families are not, or individuals are not able to go home. It's amazing how some particular programs have lasted for 20-something years. There's good monitoring. They're pretty strict on them. Great boundaries, really being able to set that. But there's a lot out there, I feel, are charging a lot of money for what are you really truly getting. And there's a lot that have really have died within sober living, have gotten hurt, within sober living because they're not managed well.
Yeah, I think sober living is, I think there's a lot of bad ones that kind of kill the good ones. Everybody talks about the bad ones. No one ever talks about all the great ones. Everybody talks about,
true.
and then that's just the nature of the beast of anything. Everybody likes the negative stuff. I hear about all these sober houses that are no good, but I don't always hear about the ones that are really good. So it's kind of outweighs it. But it's a business now. It's you got to look into those things, and you got to find people that run them the right house, because it can work for you. It definitely can work, but it can hurt you too.
You're a fan of it. Like you felt like you should have.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of not. You can't go back to where you were. You can if you're going to change a lot of things, but most of us were young and we want to be with our friends, and you want to hang out with your buddies, and that all that stuff leads to not always the best thing. So you got to find a different route. And I think there's good ones, but like Karen said, there's bad ones too that kind of hurt you.
And it's hard, I think, exactly what he's saying. We go back to, how do you know which ones are good
Right.
ones? How are you going to access the good programs? What type of programs can you go, or who can you call to be able to find out? You've got programs such as AdCare, Gosnell. I'm pretty sure probably Washbourne, some of your other treatment programs will vet a program before they use them. So, if you have some good reps out there and they're continually checking on the sober living, the new ones, the updated ones, and then continuing to follow them, and hopefully then individuals can be directed to Washburn, and then there's usually lists of sober houses that, they will use, or AdCare has sober houses, that they would use to refer to.
I spend a lot of time going out to structure sober living houses to put my eyes on them, to get the feeling of the culture there, and meet with the house managers, and not just one time. You go once every few months to make sure that those places are the same. You get a changeover in management and the house can go downhill. You really want to make sure that it's a place that you trust in. It's very important.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you
on.
for
It was so
having me.
quick, right?
Thank you. That was.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
If somebody wants to reach out to you, I don't know if you feel like having people contact you. If
Yeah,
not,
that's fine.
If not, is there a place that somebody can go if they're interested in learning more about treatment, or where they should go, or any suggestions to somebody out there who may?
I think a lot of your towns have, there's a lot of drop-in centers out there, all across Massachusetts right now that are full of resources. Then you have your nightly, 1 time a month, 2 time a month drop-ins that you can go that are full of resource information. Anybody can call me, 781-706-9699. I will help you and direct you in any way, shape, or form that I possibly can.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on, and we'll
It's
be right
great.
back on CrossCheck. Welcome back to CrossCheck. My name is Andy Bernstein, here with two-time Stanley Cup winner.
We've been hearing about all his
sorry.
kids in the break.
Like
Good kids, too.
like Antonio
Oh,
Cromartie.
don't even start.
And the pride of Pembroke, Kevin Stevens. And also at the table is Alex Bezanson with the Abington Substance Awareness Coalition.
You got it right.
All right.
This is a 25th show.
It's
or
a
whatever.
landmark.
Yeah,
Where's your bottle of water? Where's your little bottle?
My bottle of water's over there.
With the logo.
I didn't bring any logos today.
Handprint.
We'll bring some more next week.
All right. Joining us at the table now is Kate Sullivan with the City of Boston Credit Union. She is a marketing and business development officer for the credit union and heads up their financial education department. And they've been a great supporter of our show, and we love them, and we're so happy to have you on. So talk to us about financial literacy and what exactly it is, because we talk about it a lot. What does it mean?
Well, first, thanks for having me. Financial literacy is really the education and understanding of what makes up people's personal finances. And there's different topics, and they usually focus around like savings and credit scores and credit reports and dealing with debt. And there's not a great understanding about them, and people really need to, focus on what they're doing, focus on their finances, because if you're understanding them, you can manage them better. It makes it easier to understand what you need to know when you go to buy a car and what they're going to be looking for, or how to save money, or how to get out of debt. Those are some of the biggest challenges people have. So there's different techniques and top, theories on how to save money and how to get out of debt and, manage credit and stuff. But people have to understand like what they are, how they're used, and how to
Move forward.
get a grasp on them and get moving forward.
I need all those helps on all of us. Like now, like today. But
Like literally now.
Yeah,
Right.
We can set up a session.
But yeah, you were talking earlier, like you talk to all different age groups. So if if you're talking to the younger crowd, like what do you guys, what's the objective of talk to those guys?
So one of the funnest groups that I've worked with, I don't know if funnest is a word, but one of the best groups was I did my daughter's preschool classroom, and we talk about the 3 S's, which is sharing money, spending money, and saving money, and giving them an opportunity to hold on to play money and try to show them, these 4 quarters equal this $1, and talking to them. The Berenstain Bears have a great series, educational series for their
The
books.
Andy Bernstein.
The Andy Bernstein. I've gotten that since I was in 2nd grade.
I didn't even make the connection.
Are you
Yeah.
the Berenstain Bear? No, it's Bernstein.
Still got his first $1.
Yeah.
I do.
And he doesn't know 4 quarters equals
Yeah.
that. You know?
So with them, it's, making it fun, making it interesting. Some of the teen groups that I work with, as I was saying, they either have little to no attention span when it comes to it. So we have, 8 quick tips that we give them and understanding how they're spending. Some of the older groups, it's more about understanding scams. It's understanding how phishing scams work. And, they're dabbling for the first time in online banking. And
Can you give an example of what a phishing scam would be?
yeah, so you might get an email that's branded from your bank that looks legit, and the address says, from your financial institution, click this link to verify your credit card information, and they'll
I've
click
received
it.
those from Capital One or Chase.
Being a senior, you probably.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kidding.
And folks will click on them, and they'll enter their
Okay,
credit card
Mr. Bear.
information. Or it might be something as, verify your mom's maiden name, because that's such a big
Right.
security piece. To the calls to the seniors that, hey, your grandson's been arrested.
yeah.
You need to go to the grocery store, get $500 in Amazon gift cards to scratch off the back and read them to us. And
That happens, huh?
it does
Yeah,
happen. It happens a
great.
lot.
And the Bitcoin, I've gotten, they send out these things. They try to do extortion for you, saying go take Bitcoin to a.
Yeah, it's amazing what, you all get those, you're all a descendant of some rich king.
Oh, yeah, the
and,
Nigerian rich
if
guy.
you send
Yeah.
us money, we'll send the money back to you. So it's really, it's great to get out there and talk to these folks. And the different groups we've done, some of them are in transitional housing, they're homeless, and it's talking to them about, just kind of a reminder about what savings and checking accounts are, the difference between debit and ATM cards, and getting them back on track, helping them, look at their credit report for the first time after, a hiatus of not looking at it.
You can relate to that, and as far as I don't mean it like
Homeless and like him.
yeah, no, I don't mean. Well, that's like you call Paula, you're like, oh, and that homeless guy.
No, the credit, yeah, you can lose your credit, pretty quickly,
Real quick.
and it happens like if you don't pay a few things here and there for a couple of months, it goes down. How do obviously you recommend to pay your bills in time, but to get people out of that, well, how do you recommend? What do you say to those type of people that are stuck a little bit?
Definitely, always call the person or the organization, and work with them that way.
Yeah.
We always say that we would rather you reach out to us and tell us that you're having a hard time or you're dealing with some hardship, rather than us having to reach out to you, try to track you down. Like, everybody gets those 888 numbers on their cell phone these days, so it's like, I'm not going to answer that one.
Yeah.
Let us know first. Like, we're not in the business, to repossess your car. Like, we don't want to foreclose on your home. We'd rather work with you to come up with a plan that works. In terms of credit, it is just, trying to, at least make the minimum payment so you're making a payment. Also, not using your credit or your credit cards if you're having trouble. Like, I get that it's a cycle that sometimes, you don't have the money because you're paying all your bills back, but now you got to use your credit card but you need to take a step back and just look at what's going on and what.
How long does it take to lose your credit? Is there any
Well, most credit agencies report every 30 days.
30 days.
So if you miss payments 30 days later, you can start to see that.
You can see a decline.
You can start to see that drop. But the good news is that once you get back on track, if you make that payment up and then you start going forward, you'll start to see it go back up again. But it just kind of will, it can go down quickly.
And then you talk about debt consolidation, because that's a lot of things that people who have credit issues, they see, oh, well, if you debt consolidation and we'll pay off all your debt, and then you pay us a lump payment every month.
So that can be tricky because some of them are settling your debt for less than what is actually owed. Certain companies will do that instead. So you're not really paying it off in full. It's just settling it.
And it kills your credit, too.
And it can still be reported as settled for less than what was actually owed. So I always try to say, it's one thing to get a consolidation loan from a credit union or a financial institution where you get a loan for the amount you owe and you pay it, and then you're paying one monthly payment back to the financial institution.
As long as you don't use a credit card to get them
as long
up.
as you get them, because then now you're stuck with a personal loan and more credit card debt. But you're usually getting a better interest rate on a personal loan than the credit cards. It does take some dedication and it does take some focus to do it that way, but it's a great way for people who are feeling overwhelmed with credit card debt that, I'm going to just do this. I wish I never opened my credit cards and move forward.
So something my wife Lisa has always said, that something like this should be taught in the schools. You should learn how to balance a checkbook. You should learn how to manage your credit cards. And it's her feeling that
they don't teach it.
This is a problem in society today, and a lot of the problems we have is because of that. But further on, we've worked with a lot of younger people through addiction, through Teen Challenge, and a lot of these kids have been addicted since they were early teens. So they don't have any credit. They have no idea about how to write a check. So do you offer programs to go around
so
what do you suggest for people like that?
So on behalf of the credit union, I go out and I do financial education. So it is talking to kids about managing their money. For the younger kids, a lot of it comes down to two things. The FOMO, the fear of missing out. So they're spending their money because if they're not going out with their friends, doing what they're doing, they're missing out on something. And then balancing needs versus wants. Like, what do I need versus what do I want? Right now, the new iPhone is set to be announced, next month. does that particular
Andy
person.
still has a flip phone, though.
I do. I do and I get it at Walmart.
Burners.
I got a burner phone. No, I'm kidding.
But it's asking them, do they need the new phone when it comes out, or do they want the new phone? And if anybody can start asking themselves that question as they make their purchases, it helps them make a better decision. I just had to buy a new car. I needed a car. I needed a safe car. I needed a reliable car. Am I going to buy the car I want, which would have been something fancy or something a little bit, fun, or do I get the car that I need? I have 2 young kids. I need something that can carry them. Like, I really needed to focus on what you wanted versus what I needed.
With college being back in, with school being back in session, a lot of at universities, they try to get you signed up for a credit card.
Yeah.
And they'll give you something for signing
Like
up.
a towel.
A towel or a bobblehead or something like that. What's your advice to that? Because I know there's the double-edged sword because you want to build your credit.
Yeah, so I definitely understand that. Like, I back a long time ago when I was in college, you got it. There's a lot of regulations now that don't allow them to offer credit cards the way they used to. If you have a child that is going to go off to college and you would like them to have a credit card, definitely do something that's joint so that you can actively monitor what they're spending their money on and what they're looking at, and hold them to
Everyone turns and looks at Kevin.
and hold them to having to pay it back. You just spent, $40 on pizza tonight. Like, how did you plan on paying for that? Like, hold them to it. Make it that it's their card. You're there if something happens, but you really have to hold them to, like, you spent it, you have to pay it back.
Because the younger kids can get into trouble real quick,
Yeah.
and their credit score can really take a dive. And then they get out of college, and now they need their credit to buy a car, buy a house, or whatever.
Get an apartment.
Get an apartment. So it's really important that there's education out there.
So I was telling you before the show, my credit used to be in the 500s. It was horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible.
Surprise.
I know. Now it's almost 800, right? Between 780 and 800.
Your wife. Not you.
No. No, but I will tell you, this is, God, we are really throwing daggers at each other. Right?
No, just at
It's
you.
getting ugly.
Right? My wife, when we first got together, I had a lot of debt, right? And I had bills. It wasn't because I didn't have the money. It was because I didn't have a structure. So we went through all my bills, laid them all out. Here's what we can pay. Here's what we can't pay right now. Maybe we'll pay something towards that,
Yeah.
right? And started working on it. So I can relate to this, but I remember when I was younger and I wanted an apartment and I wanted to live in Bethesda, right, in D.C., and it was big high rise. I tried to apply for a loan, or not a loan, a mortgage, or not a mortgage, what I'm saying, a rental.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get approved. So they said, I went to this thing called Alternative Housing Solutions where they actually signed for me, but I paid $300 more a month to be able to get in that apartment. So having poor credit, I guess my point is, if you have poor credit,
It costs you more.
you're really at risk for.
It can be done by landlords in different states, not in Massachusetts. Your credit score can determine how much you pay for insurance, like especially your auto insurance. I was just at a conference, and it can determine
And jobs.
if you're eligible to even open bank accounts and
Right.
stuff with people. But yeah, it can be affected. It can affect your whole life.
Background checks.
Background checks, different institutions for jobs, like as a financial institution, you get a credit check.
So this is serious stuff.
I like to say that, like, your credit report itself, it's a financial resume. You have your job, you have your employment history, and that's your resume. But then your credit report is your financial resume.
It's your name.
How your reputation as a borrower, your reputation as in your ability to pay back debt.
It's crazy. Now, we also talk what it means to be on a budget,
Mm-hmm.
right? People always say, get on a budget, get on a budget. I know it sounds simple and it's common sense,
It's hard.
but what does that mean, being on a budget?
It's having a giant picture of all the money that you have to spend and how the money you're getting in and how does it work together, but also having the flexibility to flex it and to change things from here to there, if you need something, building into a budget, saving money. I'm on a budget, I need to save some of that money that I'm bringing home each month and putting that aside and making that part of your budget. I'm not going out to eat every week now.
I was just going to ask that.
How does, that money that you're not spending, just because you're not spending it at dinner doesn't mean you're spending it on clothing. It means it needs to be directed somewhere at Costco. Yeah.
Costco.
On like a 5-pound drum of coleslaw or something.
Yeah, that's right. Or lox.
But making sure that you're being on a budget means that you're very aware of where your money is being spent and how you're spending it and what your goals are with it as well.
Well, you talk about goals. When you say goals, that's if you're in a relationship or marriage, having common goals.
Yeah.
Or at least having a discussion about the goals. Where do we want to go?
Exactly.
What are we trying to accomplish?
Definitely having an understanding. I want to live in a house someday, or I want to, have a farm. What is that goal? What's it going to take? Is everybody on board with it? Because the worst thing is if you have two people with two different goals trying to save for two different things, like where's the common ground?
About 6 people on one budget. How's it's tough to keep a budget when you got six people drawing from your account. It's tough to keep that thing focused
Right,
on.
it's like a big pot.
I try to say budget. They look at me like, budget? What's budget mean? Yeah,
Budget's for you, not for them.
Yeah, it's not, you just keep putting it in there. I'll budget it when we get there.
But it's hard because you want to do right. You want to do nice things for your kids, and you want to enjoy a good life. So it's hard to have that, when to say no.
Exactly. No, I have that conversation with my daughter all the time. It's like, I know you want that, but we just, right now it's just not the time to do it because we're trying to save for, maybe to go on vacation or it is hard to say no, especially to kids. And that's, that is a challenge in itself.
Okay. So if people want to get in touch, so you want to get started, right? We've heard your discussion. I want to get started. What would you say the first step you take
to financial freedom?
To financial freedom.
It would definitely be.
It's not hit the lottery.
No, it's not.
No.
It's not gamble weekly until you do. The first step is deciding that that's what you want to do. Getting yourself mentally prepared, and then it's going to look at your credit report. That is the first place because you don't know what's on there if you're not looking. You have to rip it off like a Band-Aid, just
face the brutal facts.
And sometimes it's not that bad. Sometimes it's a lot worse than you think it is, and sometimes it's not as bad as you think.
And there's credit services you can sign up for. Lisa and I have one.
Experian, I go on.
And we get a update every time our credit score changes.
Right.
Or notified if it shows up in a website where it shouldn't.
Right.
So the best thing, especially if you're in Massachusetts, you can go to the mass.gov website, type in credit report, and they'll bring you to the page that will help you and understand like what you're entitled to each year, how to do that. I recommend never Googling like credit report monitoring because you're going to get crazy pages that want you to pay monthly to monitor your credit report. It's like not the way to go.
And then for people in recovery, you do some work with different organizations to help people.
Yeah, so it's been really great. For the last just over about a year, we've been partnering with the Gavin Foundation in South Boston. I go in every 3 weeks to kind of give them like a crash course in personal finances, trying to get them back thinking where they are. Finances causes a lot of stress, and stress, it can affect people not in recovery, but it can affect people in recovery because you can't break that cycle. So we go in there, we give them a crash course on reminding them why it's important to save and what does your credit score mean, like when you go to borrow money. And then we work, a lot of times it's working on credit repair. What are the first steps to take to, getting back on track?
I think with, addicts in recovery, I think financial insecurity is one of the worst things that can put you out there again and again and again and again.
Because it's the pressure of coping with
no money
and being sober.
Yeah, and
It's
that's
like-
hard. Yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard for people in early recovery because they go through a lot of things and they ruin a lot of things. You know?
Yeah, it's been great though. We really enjoy
Yeah.
chatting with them, and they're some of the most engaging audiences that I talk to. You know, they're all really great. And,
Yeah.
you know, I always wish them the best, and you know, I'm glad to be a part of that with
Yeah,
them.
that's awesome. It's
Where
good
can
stuff.
people get in touch with you?
The easiest way to get in touch with me is just ksullivan@cityofbostoncu.com. Any group that's looking to bring financial education to them, you know, just shoot me an email. They can pop over to the credit union site, cityofbostoncu.com, and you know, reach out to me, and I'd be happy to come.
You're doing great stuff.
Thank
It's
you.
really
Yeah.
important. It's
It is.
really
It is.
important. So thank you. Thanks
you
for
for
coming
having
on
me.
CrossCheck.
Thank you
Thanks.
very
Yeah,
much.
awesome.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to CrossCheck. I'm Andy Bernstein alongside the one and only Kevin Stevens. Alex Bezanson from
That's
the
me.
Abington Substance Awareness Coalition.
That meets at Abington Town Hall the second Wednesday of every month at 7 o'clock, and we're always looking for volunteers to help spread
That's
our
tonight.
message. It is tonight.
Awesome.
It is.
The Queen is speaking.
Actually, the Queen, who was one of our guest hosts here, she's on assignment again today, but she will be the speaker tonight.
Alyssa Horton,
Yes.
the great Alyssa Horton. Speaking of greatness,
Oh,
Amy George joining us.
yes.
Yay. All right, so we had two dedicated ladies on today to help other people, and one talking about credit and recovery and how it all works and trying to help people on that front. And then we had Karen McDonald, who has been in the industry for a very long time.
And Karen has been on here on WATD in the past, too.
Oh, I did not know.
Yeah,
I
she
did not
has,
know
yeah.
that. So let's just quickly break it down.
Break her down.
Break her down.
Yeah, I thought, you know, it's like I said, Karen's great. She's you know, she knows anything about everything out there in this world. She's been sober a long time, which is sometimes it's good that, you know, she's been through it. She knows what it's all about, and she can bring her expertise to all these different places. And I think she's done great work. And the financial stuff, you know, financial insecurity, I think for anybody, but for addicts, you know, I know a lot of people that it's kind of brought them back out there again. It's it's a big thing. It's not like, you know, it's not small.
Well,
No,
the problem is with the addicts. I mean, and you can't get an apartment, and
Yeah.
you know they leave treatment and they're back on the street. You know,
No, and you're sober and you're trying and like, okay, well now I'm sober, but my problems are still there.
right?
Yeah, and a lot of these people, you know, they go back to the street. That's the only way they can make money too.
Right.
So it's kind of like, you know, they're not used to making normal wages. You know, they like to go out there and make, you know, decent amount of wages,
Right.
and they're not, you know, now you have to go back into real life because you're back into real life. If you want to be in real life and you want to survive, you can do real life things, right?
And I mean, you've done a lot of great work with your financial stuff, with your
Yeah.
house, and
Yeah, I've done. It's come back, but it's, you know, it's
it's a work in
from,
progress.
It's far from where it should be.
Yeah.
You know that's just what happens, and but it's good to, you know, to ask some questions and get out there and kind of learn about it, because, you know, it can go south on you pretty quick.
Real quick, for anybody.
Yeah.
For anybody.
We want to make sure we mention September 10th is coming up, right?
Yeah, the movie
Shattered.
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 Got it.
Tickets are available
The
at
Kevin Story Road to Hope and Redemption, right?
Shattered.
Shattered.
tickets available at powerforward25.com,
Yep.
and you can buy tickets just to see the show and listen to Kevin speak afterwards.
Good celebs
Yeah.
there.
Or you can be a sponsor, or you could buy a VIP.
And where can they find out about that?
Everything's on powerforward25.com.
Where is that, Kev?
Power425.com. I like it.
All right. What say you?
I thought it was a great show.
You
I
did?
thought it was a fantastic show. Yeah, I really did.
The ladies are great.
Ladies were great. It was just the financial piece hits home for me because
Sure.
I'm a big spender. So it's something that I really need to work on. It really, again, it hit home for me. And then just listening to Karen McDonald, she has such a wealth of knowledge. It was just a really, really good guest to have on today.
So that's our show for the week. Give us take us out with something.
Take us out with something. Yeah, I'll take you out with something. Right hook. Right. Yeah, I know.
Right.
But, no, good show. All good stuff. Like if you want to, if you need help and you need to, reach out to us, just reach out to powerforward25.com and have a good week. But, the first thing we all have to do, right, we have to make that first call. Like, if you're struggling and you're out there, you need help.
And we can help you.
Yeah.
Just reach out. We can help you.
Yeah, information is power, right?
Absolutely.
And you can call SAMHSA,
Right.
which is the Substance Abuse Mental Health Hotline. Sure. 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-HELP, and we will see you next week.
Listen to us next week here on WATD.
On WATD, on the one and only CrossCheck Radio podcast. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.